Halo is by far my favorite video game series. It delivers a great expanded story about hope and heroism, a fluent combat system that revolutionized gaming, and iconic moments that you will marvel at for years to come. As amazing as the multiplayer can be in the games, except for this one, I'm always the most excited for the campaign portion of a new Halo game. The adventure, the music, the awesome battles. There's nothing quite like a good Halo campaign. But which Halo game has the best campaign? Well, this video will focus on exactly that. As I'll be talking in depth about 7 Halo campaigns, and given that I don't want this video to be too long, I'll be splitting this into 3 parts. This first video will go over Halo 1, 2, and 3, the original trilogy. The next one will focus on Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach, the non-Master Chief games. And the third will focus on Halo 4 and 5, the Reclaimer saga. What I'm focusing on when reviewing each campaign is basically everything that follows the press of this button. The gameplay, the story, memorable lines, art style, the enemies, everything. There will be spoilers for every single game, no matter how big or small, so you've been warned. With that out of the way, let's begin this great journey. Oh Halo Combat Evolved, how amazing you were, are, and will be many years from now. I actually didn't play this game until its remaster got released back in 2011. I was really excited to play it, and it came with a map pack for Halo Reach, and I was all about that armor lock, so of course I got it. I had already played Halo 3 and all the games onward from that, but I thought that I had to witness the first installment to really call myself a substantial Halo fan. I really like 2 missions from CE, one of them being the first mission on board of the Pillar of Autumn. This one is great because it starts the series on such a magnificent note. Here, we're introduced to Captain Keyes, Cortana, and of course, Master Chief. It also starts off with the iconic, mesmerizing shot of the Pillar of Autumn flying towards a Halo ring with some alien army hot on their tail. It hooks you in right at the start, which some games on this list fail to do, but we'll get to that later. Having to maneuver through the attacked and damaged ship without any weapons was a nice decision. You can merely watch your comrades fighting the Covenant until you go to Keyes to collect the best gun in existence. This mission is just a great starting point in the series. The other mission I really liked was 343 Guilty Spark, also known as the mission that introduces you to the Flood. It was an action shooter before, but when that helmet footage ends, it's a horror game. The level of dread that sets in is unreal, especially on the first playthrough. Also, the Marine that shoots at you because he's PTSD'd off into the sunset, and you can decide whether to take him out of his misery or let him be alone with his thoughts. This mission is great, and I find myself returning to it more often than any other CE mission. Additionally, the Warthog run at the end is probably the coolest thing about the game. The music that is playing in the background just makes you feel like a real hero, you know? Watching that timer count down, knowing that too many collisions will delay you too much, resulting in you exploding on the Halo ring, really gets the adrenaline pumping. Seeing Echo 419 getting taken down, forcing you to drive further, multiplied the tension tenfold. I wish I could have played this when it came out. 7-year-old me would have loved this. I was just too busy playing Perfect Dark back then. The level design was at times repetitive, to say the least. Take Assault on the Control Room, for example. Alright, Assault on the Control Room, let's do this. Wow, this is a pretty cool room. These Forerunners sure know how to decorate. Whoa, this is the same room. That's cool, I guess. Alright, I'm kinda wanting to see something new here. Oh, thank God, the great outdoors. Okay, where does this lead? What? Are you joking? It's the same room, just renovated differently. Am I on drugs? Ah! I have lost count of how many times I've gotten lost in this game. It's something about the level design. It eludes you to a point of wanting to put the game down. I mean, in some levels, it is so ridiculously easy to stray from the path and just get lost. Sometimes there are arrows to guide you, but other times, like in the library, there aren't any arrows visible in the original version. Getting lost is not good for gameplay, and I'm constantly getting lost. I never liked how you fall out of vehicles so easily. In the later games, they actually gave you some time to roll over and resume your seemingly hazardous driving. But here, if you so much as hit a little grunt shoe, you go tumbling for a total of half a second and fall right off. Halo's story as a whole is pretty amazing, but it makes a lot of sense that the first game isn't busting out too many big guns story-wise. That's exactly how I feel about the storyline in Halo CE. It's enough for a story, back in 2001. Today, I feel like it doesn't give the modern story buff enough content to work with. Sure, it has Captain Keyes becoming a flood form and Master Chief punching a hole into his face. And sure, it's got the discovery of the flood cutscene. But there's just so much of this that you might easily get somewhat fatigued from hallways or running around. It's not that I dislike the campaign, not at all, but I am accustomed to playing stuff like this and this. I don't get why shooting a hunter in the back with a magnum kills it immediately. That was always weird to me. I mean, it is the magnum, but even the elites can take more than one of those suckers. They're supposed to be mini-bosses, yet they don't feel like that when you've got a magnum equipped. It just feels wrong. Plasma grenades take way too long to blow up. They must have gotten the memos that a grenade shouldn't take 3 seconds to detonate. And speaking of grenades, this part is a rather hard one that shouldn't take too long. It's not a major flaw, but I do know that I get frustrated at this part. It's not just the throwing part, but I'll get into that in a minute. The crouch behavior in CE is very peculiar. You have to be completely still, crouch, then if you want to crouch around, you stand up and start running again. The only way to crouch is if you slightly tilt the thumbstick in the direction you want to go. Now don't tilt it too far or you'll start running again. If this was a stealth game where crouching is a key mechanic, this would be a huge flaw. It's just a question of, why can't I tilt the stick the whole way and still crouch? There aren't enough weapons in this title to really get me pumped up for combat. There's only a total of 8 weapons that are usable. That means you can carry a quarter of the game's whole arsenal at a time. I've got one more thing to add here. There are so many instances where you throw a grenade that detonates in a hallway, which ends up exploding all the leftover grenades that are close by, resulting in an atomic bomb of an explosion. I can't help but feel this is a bit of an unfair way to kill you. You're about to make a jump to a platform. It's not too far of a jump, but you have to get it perfectly. You take the jump, you land on the pavement, and you've lost 90% of your health. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's still pretty vicious how much damage you take for falling in this game. It's also way harder to minimize the damage by crouching, because the crouch mechanic is not the most forgiving. In all the later Halos, I jump off of ledges and dive into enemy territories. In Combat Evolved, I have to use the stairs like I'm injured or something. Is Chief wearing buttered shoes? Because it sure feels like that sometimes. Going back to the grenade part in the Maw, you need to be very careful not to fall off the platforms when throwing the grenades. I've fallen off of this ledge so many times, especially in a hurry. It's just when you crouch jump, something is off. It's a whole lot more jittery and not responsive, as later titles manage to get just right. Maybe it's because I have it on toggle. I have no idea. I might add that the vehicles feel very slippery and too loose. The Ghost is exceptionally bad to control. Look at this! I didn't mean to do that. I completely loathe the library. Altogether. I just don't like it at all. It's just a horde mode with some, wait until I open this door, oh hang on over here, oh don't go in there because it's closed and I gotta open it. Kind of like in Destiny. And if you know me, you know that I'm not a really big fan of Destiny. The flood coming from all angles is especially cumbersome. Thank the prophets that I have this shotgun though. Almost makes this mission all worth it. And then we have the rocket launcher flood forms. Holy moly. I'm sure they were runner-up for Bradley Cooper's role in American Sniper. They just don't miss, dude. If you're the Usain Bolt of reflexes, you might be able to dodge the rockets, but it's still highly unlikely. The only hope I have to evade these guys is to die from them about 3 times, then memorize who the rocket launcher dude is and take him out from afar. That should not be the way you're meant to complete missions. Its difficulty cranks way up when you throw a rocket flood into the mix. Halo Combat Evolved is a great game, and I have a lot of respect for it, as it's the title that spawned a monumental franchise. Although there are a bunch of tedious mechanics and problematic level designs here and there, it's still a solid game that I really do care for. It's like a younger brother. He may be a brat that punched you in the genitals accidentally, but you still love him. Similarly to Halo 1, I played Halo 2 in early 2011, a few months before I played Halo CE. What a confusing and weird order I played everything in. I was blown away when I played this one. It was filled with much more action than Halo CE and offered more gameplay mechanics that, yet again, progressed first-person shooters into a new era. There were so many improvements made in this installment and a lot of things to gush over, starting with oh my god, the story is where it's at in here. For those that felt like the story was bare-boned in Halo Combat Evolved are going to have a constant erection throughout this one. You're introduced to the Arbiter, a Sangheili who's being punished for letting you get away in the first game. You see how the hierarchy is arranged and that there's a real order in the Covenant society. The hierarchs are established, the Gravemind is introduced, and you get new enemies to fight. Halo 2 just did everything a sequel needs to do for its universe. It expanded its story. It introduced new things to give the story more depth and up the stakes. And the remastered cutscenes are utterly sensational. Look at the contrast between the original and remastered cutscenes in Halo Combat Evolved. Pretty cool, huh? Now look at Halo 2. These cutscenes look so astonishing, I can actually smell Gravemind's breath. Oh god. Another thing I really liked in the storyline was that you actually play as the Arbiter. Seeing some parts from the Covenant's perspective was such an interesting narrative move. You have the ability to be invisible, and you also have access to plasma grenades that blow up when they're supposed to. Playing as the most lovable elite was the fresh take Halo needed to keep things interesting. Now this next part is something some people might disagree with, but I actually didn't mind the cliffhanger ending. You wanna know why? Because I didn't have to wait 3 years for Halo 3 to be released. I could just pop it in immediately. I understand that for a lot of players, this ending was unacceptable. But as this is my take on it, I can't fault it. It's like saying that Breaking Bad's cliffhanger in the mid-season finale was bad because you had to wait a year to know what happened next.
I had to wait a year for this.
The game development for Halo 2 was a nightmare, resulting in Bungie having to scrap about a third of the story to release the game on time. It's a good narration tool when done right, and I applaud them in the way they executed it. Halo 2 introduced the Scarab, which was and still is the most satisfying enemy to take down. It passes under a bridge, giving you an opportunity to jump on top of it. The key thing here is that nobody tells you to jump on top of the Scarab. It's only your own testosterone that takes the steering wheel. This is one of the most memorable moments in gaming for me. Also, the Mjolnir mix with Steve Vai will never not be the coolest thing in existence. Yes, I said Mjolnir. I'm Icelandic, so of course I'm gonna say Mjolnir instead of Mjolnir. Speaking of great music, the fight in the mission Gravemind where Breaking Benjamin's Blow Me Away starts playing is a moment where I think I'll grow an additional reproductive organ. I purposefully take longer to kill the enemies because I just want to listen to the song. I also love Misha Mansour's contribution to the remastered version. I mean, you know why my name is Gentleman, right? Right? I still think Blow Me Away has a more uplifting and epic properties within it. If I had to pick which one I'd like more, I'd probably go with the original. Still love you, Misha. New enemies like the Buggers were introduced, and having Brutes arguably as strong as the Elites was a nice addition too. Also, the fact that the Brutes can actually go berserk makes you have to think on your feet. One of my Covenant allies was using a beam rifle, and I traded my plasma pistol for it.
How am I to fight with this?
Nice little touches like these push the game to great heights. In the Oracle, you can clearly see that the Flood is underneath the floorboards in the remastered graphics. But I personally like how cryptic this part of the game is in the original version. You can just hear sounds and see small movements. I kind of like that there are 3 boss battles. The only one that actually feels like a boss battle is the one with Tartarus. However, the one where you fight the Heretic is very realistic. I mean, he's your equal. The only thing he has over you is the equipment to multiply himself. It makes sense, you're still equally strong, and I really enjoy this battle, but I still wish he were a little more difficult to take out. Still, the one with the Prophet is just a breeze to finish. Is the most efficient way to kill a Prophet to punch him to death? I mean, don't you have guns? The great schism in Gravemind that shows the conflict between the elites and the brutes is such a good moment in the story. The Covenant is a mess. It's actually kind of easy to pass certain areas because they're too invested in murdering one another. Cortana even says it.
Look on the bright side. For now, they seem much more interested in killing each other.
The vehicles feel much more tight and less loose, which was a necessity for some of the vehicle sections. The Covenant vehicles now have a boost ability, making the alien vehicles much more exciting and different than the human ones. Flying the Banshee is exceptionally enjoyable here, as you really feel like you're in a more deadly vehicle, rushing through the air. You can now board enemy vehicles, which is such a good feature that I actually feel empty inside when I cannot board the vehicles in Halo CE. Also, they fixed the staggering and unforgiving fall damage, and I applaud them for it. It makes the movement just so much more better and enjoyable. The last two praises lie within the weapons. The first one is that it's now possible to dual wield. You want to go crazy and just have two needlers? Well, now you can. This feature is so cool that I honestly can't see why it's not an addition in all the other games later in the series. And of course, the fact that they introduce more weapons in general. In CE, you could kill the sword elites, but their weapon would disappear. Now you can wield the sword and it feels so good. Where CE had 8 weapons, Halo 2 ups the ante by adding 7 new firearms. With dual wielding, you can mix up the gunplay even more. Why did Bungie get rid of the assault rifle? I mean, it's not my go-to weapon or anything, but it's like the option to place a kill ball in your maps. I'm probably not gonna do it, but I'd like the option to. There are 3 iconic weapons people see Master Chief wielding: the battle rifle, the rocket launcher, or the assault rifle. All I'm saying. These two things I'm going to mention go hand in hand. The first one is that the legendary difficulty is probably harder to complete than it is to discover a new element. A lot of YouTubers have mentioned this. The Gravemind mission is definitely the 11th plague. You might think that this is just a bad checkpoint scenario. Brutes and grunts have you in their sights, and you're just standing in the middle of the hall waiting to get shot in the genitals. You get no breathing room, you just die. But here's the thing, this is the beginning of the mission. I'd find it miraculous if you'd make it to Gravemind on Legendary, because all throughout the campaign, there is a certain entity that takes all the fun you're having
and takes a gigantic alien shit on it.
I'm of course talking about the sniper jackals. These guys could be at the other side of the continent in an earthquake, sipping a cup of tea that is too hot and still manage to hit you in the face with their goddamn beam rifles. The rocket flood aren't even this evil. Why even have elites, hunters, or brutes when you've got jackals and plenty of beam rifles to go around? This war would be won in 3 minutes. As much as I joke about this, the Halo 2 campaign is infamous for a very steep difficulty spike when played on Legendary. It's become somewhat of a meme at this point, but the numbers don't lie. The amount of good things I can say about Halo 2 versus the not so good and god-awful ones make it seem like the game is almost perfect. And it is. It's a monumental achievement for gaming history and will forever be a beloved title in my eyes. Halo 3, the game I fell in love with the summer of 2009. The multiplayer was fluent and fair, it was easy to pick up and hard to master, the announcer yelling out your achievements in battle.
Joy. Double kill.
But this campaign was Halo's magnum opus. It takes place immediately where Halo 2 left off, and it doesn't waste your time in any way. What Halo 2 did with its story is amplified in this one. You fight alongside the Arbiter here, and what a fucking bro he is. Sergeant Johnson plays a pretty major part in this one as well. Speaking of Johnson, when Chief grabs Johnson's arm to lift himself up on his feet, how did Johnson manage to sustain that weight? I mean, the Mjolnir armor is approximately half a ton, and Johnson isn't wearing a suit, is he? So either Bungie made a continuity error, or Johnson is the strongest dude ever. It's also nice to see in this cutscene that the injured Marines are flabbergasted by the sight of seeing a real Spartan. In that same mission, you feel like you've accomplished your objective by just seeing how many Marines get out of the hangar alive. Shit's hard on Legendary. There are a handful of gameplay moments where you have a choice whether or not to save an ally. It's not telling you to save him, but you still want to. This could be a scripted sequence to show that the Covenant are evil and malicious, kind of like they approached this in later games. But this way, you being able to prevent them from picking this Marine up adds to the heroic invigoration that Halo 3 has to offer. But there are also moments where you realize that you cannot save everyone. Walking through the facility in the storm, you see so many injured civilians, and also quite a few have perished. I liked how the campaign didn't always take itself too seriously. For example, when the Brute is just peeing in the corner. Is it weird that I love that? You have the epic moments. You have somber moments. You have, why the hell are you here? You're the reason I have trust issues moments. The memorial segment at the end is a touching moment that showed the true horrors of war, but also the respect and camaraderie that follows. This scene was so gratifying to watch, as we really don't see too much humanity in the games thus far. It's just been kill, kill, kill. Ooh, a medal. Kill, kill, kill. This was something the series required to really drive home that it wasn't for nothing. If you'd put a gun to my head and ask what my favorite moment is from this one, I'd need a minute or two. You've got the Scarab fight, the Brute showdown, the Scarab fight, the Warthog run. Oh, and the Scarab fight with 2 Scarabs. I repeat, 2 Scarabs. It's honestly a toss-up for me. All these crazy moments made the game rise to incredible heights. I'm gonna stop saying Scarab fights now. The gigantic tank battles are 3 total, and they all have a different way of handling the threat. The first one has an elevator that you can jump from on top of the monstrosity, or you can go in a mongoose and eliminate its legs, temporarily disabling it. The second one has a nice ramp next to the Scarab where you can take a Warthog or a Chopper and fast and furious onto it. The third and final one hands you a Hornet, so you can simply land on it and take out the core, or you can yet again take to the vehicles and let the AI shoot the legs down. Just know that there's an additional Scarab with its sight on your orange visor protected face. One other part I want to mention is where the gigantic ship comes to deliver a shit ton of vehicles, and all the wreckage and debris on the ground flies off from the sheer mass and velocity of the ship. It was cool in 2009, and it still is today. Then we have one part of the game that I feel gets overshadowed by all the That moment is the one where you duel against the Brute Chieftain wielding the gravity hammer while his subordinates spectate. You can completely take on this scenario how you want. You can duel with him and then take out all the guys afterwards. You could just start shooting everyone right out of the gate, or you can inflate his ego and let him kill you. That one kind of messes with the timeline though, but you know, whatever. Then we have the Warthog run that makes the CE Warthog run look like a chump. This one is longer, it's got huge big air jumps, and a lot more space to drive. The music is amazing, but that's what to be expected at this point in the franchise. Arbiter is on the gun shooting all the Flood and Sentinels while the floor tiles collapses behind you. If you dilly-dally around for too long, you're dead. If you drive on the wrong tile at the wrong time, you're dead. And the stakes feel more real than in Combat Evolved, because instead of a timer, Cortana tells you how long you have to make it.
Charging sequence at 30%, 80% charged, 90% firing sequence initiated.
A timer has to be fair for casual gamers, so when I see that I have about 2 minutes to spare, it doesn't have that, wow, that was close my dude, I'm practically Master Bond. But when you make it through the whole run, the cinematic that follows is so amazing. New weapons are introduced like the Mauler and the Gravity Hammer, spike and incendiary grenades, and support weapons like the machine gun. I really like that they added some more weapons in this one. Equipment plays a part in how you tackle certain scenarios, like getting the higher ground with a gravity lift, setting a trip mine in front of an oncoming vehicle, and deploying a bubble shield when vulnerable. This was a nice addition, and I enjoy this feature more than I did with Reach's armor abilities. When you play the co-op campaign, no one is playing the same character. You don't have 4 Master Chiefs teabagging the ground every 7 seconds, but instead, you've got 3 additional characters. This made co-op more immersive. It was also very sought after to be the host of the lobby, because then you get to play Master Chief. The pistol is basically useless. It just exists. It has a very slow rate of fire and no zoom function. I could probably use a leaf blower more effectively against the Covenant than this Magnum. When thinking about the flaws for Halo 3's campaign, I was having a lot of difficulties. In my memory, everything was amazing and top-notch. I went for a walk to contemplate and reimagine how the campaign really was. Then it came to me. The fucking visions! The little interruptions where Cortana or the Gravemind telepathically address Master Chief. Your speed drastically slows down, and your screen is filled with blue light when Cortana is talking, and green disgusting tentacles when the Gravemind addresses you. Ugh. This just kills all the momentum when playing. It's like if you're having dinner with your family and everyone is having a good time, and then you throw in a, "Hey, I once ate my own shit." The rhythm is gone, man. Thankfully, the enemies cannot harm you when the visions are in effect, or else I'd need a new controller at the end of each session. And of course, we're going to address the elephant in the room. Get it? Because it's a play on words. The Cortana mission on Legendary difficulty is such a disgustingly evil and difficult level that bathes in the salt from all the perished Master Chiefs. It's just that there's so many flood forms everywhere. You can't just kill the flood, but you have to take out all the little flood popcorn things to stop them from resurrecting their fallen foes. You have to destroy the bodies with your weapons. This is just an overly frustrating mission. Take the mission Halo, for example. It's exciting and epic when you're driving the Warthog, but it's never frustrating. You may die, but you know that it's just your own fault. This mission is something I dread in every single playthrough. What else can I say? Whenever I play this campaign, I feel like I'm completely immersed in the world of Halo. It grabs you and makes you feel that what you're doing really matters in the universe. This game has a permanent place in my heart. You did it again, Bungie. So those were my thoughts on the original Halo trilogy. What do you think? Did I misinterpret Sergeant Johnson's strength? Do you think one of the games deserves to be higher? Lower? Let the Gentleman's Club know in the comment section. You're welcome to leave a like, as it would mean the world to me. These videos take a while to make. Stay gentle, you magnificent ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you guys in the next one.